Hey guys, Sean here. So you want to get into precious metals? You have done your homework and you know gold and silver has a place in today's crazy world. But you're not sure if you should start small with silver or immediately pull out the big guns and go for gold. Now the answer isn't straightforward and there are some things you really need to keep in mind. Just because you see a friend buying lots of silver or someone on YouTube stacking only gold doesn't mean you should just copy it, right? You don't want to make a random decision that could cost thousands of dollars down the road. So, personally, I started buying silver almost 8 years back. It all started out with this American Eagle, which I got from a coin store. What a beautiful coin, right? It always amazes me every time I look at it. But, anyways, today I am more heavily invested in gold because it is more suitable for me and how I live my life. I've worked the numbers, I know how much I can consistently put into precious metals and my end goal for them. And in this video, I really want to take time to answer the age-old question of choosing the right metal to start with. It's important you run through all these considerations in your mind and not just jump into the deep end. So strap yourselves in, get a drink, and let's dive in. So the big question you need to ask yourself is, how much can you comfortably afford? How much money can you set aside for precious metals while paying the rest of your bills? I think most of you probably have other investments going on. Maybe it's paying down your mortgage or contributing a few $100s to build your stock portfolio. You really want to get those essentials settled first before you even think about gold and silver, right? The thing about gold is that at $1,800 an ounce, it isn't cheap anymore. It has really tripled in price over 20 years thanks to all this money printing, all the bad fiscal policies going on, and it's really going to be unlikely to hit back down to those cheaper levels. And because of this, silver is actually a great starting point for most people because you can immediately get into the action, right? 1 ounce of silver costs less than $30 after you factor in the physical premium, and that is why I see it's really attractive to many people, right? And with a 1 ounce weight, it really feels more substantial when you hold it than maybe a smaller 5 gram or 10 gram gold bar, which really looks quite tiny. What I like about the cheaper price of silver in this case is that you can really start building discipline when stacking, right? I think most people should be able to save up around $300 a month, and that's easily 10 ounces of silver. That means you can actually consistently go down to your dealer or coin shop and start making purchases of silver once a month. I think it's very important to get into the rhythm of buying physical precious metals, and if you're saving up all the way for a single ounce of gold, it can really break that momentum if you're just starting out. I love gold, but there's something really to be said about building a big silver stack and seeing it grow that will motivate you to keep going. And that's how I started and reached over 1,000 ounces of silver in around 6 or 7 years. And it all starts with just 1 ounce at a time. While I love silver, I prefer gold much more today, and I'll tell you why. The moment you buy physical gold or silver, you immediately lose money because of the physical premiums. It's the price you need to pay to get the precious metals in your hand in coin or bar form. It's just the cost of doing business if you want to get a physical metal in your possession. And it's quite important because you want to be free from any counterparty risk, right? That's the whole point of getting to physical metals. And if you're buying from a dealer or coin shop, it's going to be quite rare for you to pay zero premiums. It can happen, but I wouldn't really seriously count on it. Not many stackers actually talk about this instant loss, but I have to say it. When you buy silver, the premium can be as great as 10 times more than gold, and many people just can't stomach that, myself included, right? So for 1 ounce gold coin, such as the gold maple here, the premium is around 3%. But for the silver maple here, the premium is around 20%, and that's almost 7 times more than the gold. That means your physical silver investment will have to rise up by 20% just to break even, and not many people realize that. I believe that silver will continue to rise in the long term, but you might not want to take that big upfront hit of 20%, and that's totally understandable, guys. If your personal situation is very volatile and you might need cash at a drop of a hat, then gold would be better, right? A lot of people say that when you sell your gold or silver, you'll be able to recover some of the premium, and that's true. However, it'll be lower than what you paid for. So I did a bit of a compilation here, and as you can see, for American Gold Eagle 1 ounce coin at today's prices, you'll be paying around $1960 for it, and when you sell it back to the dealer, you'll recover around $1900, right? So that's a premium loss of $60 or 3.3%. Not too bad. But when it comes to the Silver Eagle, the premium loss gets much more significant, and you can be losing 15% or more, and that is something you really need to think about. Will the premiums come down? Honestly, I don't really think so, right? As things get more expensive thanks to inflation, I think we can also expect premiums to increase. But I believe the silver premiums will increase even more. We can see from the recent silver squeezes that when demand really pours into silver, local physical supply can get drained out quite fast, and that just skyrockets the premium ups in the short term, right? I remembered for Silver Maple, which is one of the lower premiums around, very popular coin and quite cheap as well. The premiums actually shot up to over 30%, 35% at one point, and people were still buying them. It was quite terrifying and a little fascinating to watch at the same time. So, do understand if you do choose silver, you'll be taking a bigger upfront hit than gold, and you can expect to lose more on the premium when you sell. So it's not wise to have a short-term horizon when it comes to precious metals, especially silver, right? If you're stacking, it has to be for the long term. You shouldn't automatically choose silver just because you can stack more. You need to understand the percentages here. The devil is always in the details. Another big issue when it comes to starting with silver is that before you know it, it will pile up real fast. Because silver is much cheaper than gold, it holds less value per ounce, and that is problematic when it comes to storage. A big argument I hear is that silver is great for barterability if S hits the fan, so you should stack more silver in case of an economic collapse. And that is true and relevant in big, vast countries like America, especially the more rural the place you live in. But if you're staying in a big city like New York or Singapore, holding silver mainly for barterability doesn't make too much sense, right? We're all moving towards the digital age where transactions are going to be done online. It's not going to be even be using cash anymore. And that's really why you don't hear me talking much about junk silver, because it really doesn't make sense for me living in Singapore to hold junk, right? Now, the gold to silver ratio today is around 80 is to 1, and that means the value in 1 ounce of gold is equivalent to 80 ounces of silver. That's significant, guys. That's a huge difference, and that means you need a lot of space to store silver than gold. And that's why I favor gold more, because holding more value per ounce is important to me. Gold is much more portable, I pay less storage costs, and if anything happens, it's much more easy to transport. So, if you're maybe living in an apartment with limited space, or you're frequently traveling for business or whatever, gold actually does make more sense. You can easily transport it around, and if you put it into a vault, you'll save much more security costs. Now, where you live also plays a very big part if gold or silver is better. I live in Singapore and I'm very fortunate because over here, there isn't any value added or sales tax on investment grade gold or silver. I believe in America, most states also exempt precious metals from taxes, so it's awesome if you live in places like Arizona or Texas, right? However, if you live in Europe like the UK, France, or Austria, then you'll need to pay a 20% VAT tax on silver, and that is on top of the silver premium, and that just makes buying silver really unattractive. I have to keep it real. That means you are down 40% or even 50% on your investment, and it just doesn't make sense at that point. I'd rather you look into silver ETFs, because paying 50% premium plus taxes just screams daylight robbery to me. So just because gold looks expensive and the spot price of silver looks cheap doesn't mean it is the best option for you. You really gotta take a look at where you live. I think the next point is something that's rarely discussed, and that is if you have the holding power when it comes to investing. Can you weather the storm of gold and silver? I need to say that gold and silver is not going to be a smooth ride, guys. Just because they are inflation hedges and should go up over time doesn't mean they won't fall or stay stagnant in price, right? In fact, I think for almost 6 years from 2013 to 2019, gold and silver did absolutely nothing, right? Can you just patiently sit and wait for your metals to appreciate? Or are you trying to get rich in 1 to 2 years, right? And if you see the price of gold and silver fall by 30% or even 50%, do you have diamond hands to hold on, or do you have paper hands and you're just going to sell it off? That is a very personal question that I just can't answer. Because if you cash out all your money and putting it into gold and silver, hoping for it to triple in price in a year, then you're becoming a Timmy and treating this like a casino, and you'll get slaughtered, guys. That's why it's dangerous to just listen to ideas like, silver is very undervalued compared to gold in a vacuum, right? You need to take all the opinions out there and really form your own idea of how you want to invest, right? You need to take in how much money you actually earn and whether it's sustainable for you to really go a few years without seeing any appreciation at all. Now, I do believe that silver is undervalued compared to gold. If we take a look at the gold to silver ratio today, it is abnormally high, and I believe that this ratio will narrow one day. And on paper, that makes choosing silver to be the better option, right? But when will it revalue? No one knows for sure. It could be 5 years or 20 years from now. And if you pile all your money into silver just because of that one single reason, and suddenly you need to get out, maybe it's a family emergency or you need to pony up cash for your mortgage, then congrats, guys, you've just played yourself. I know of rich people that buy gold and silver every time it falls in price, right? It falls by 2%, they buy. It falls another 5%, they buy. It falls another 10%, and they still buy. They keep buying all the way down because they have tons of cash and they don't really care, right? If gold and silver doesn't perform for 10 years, they'll be fine and not lose a wink of sleep. They won't even blink. They can weather the storm, but can you do the same? If cash flow is really important to you, then the way you buy precious metals has to be different. I think before you decide to drop stacks of cash on gold and silver, you really gotta ask yourself what are your goals as well. Are you looking to hedge against inflation and maybe store your wealth for big purchase down the road, maybe in 5 to 10 years? Then gold historically has been better than silver, right? If we look at the last 20 years, gold is less volatile and has outperformed silver. So if you have a solid timetable of this is when I need cash to buy this house or buy that new shiny Mercedes, then gold is more predictable, right? I believe that we are all focused on the possibility of silver going to the moon, and I get all that, but there's value in predictability, guys. There's value. There's value when you can really plan when to liquidate some metals to invest into something else that you really need, right? But let's say that you are stacking for generational wealth. You want your stack to outlive you and it's going to be passed on to your children and your children's children. Now, suddenly silver starts making more sense in this conversation. You suddenly have a long time horizon to weather any fluctuations, and silver could really value in that span of time, right? And you might enjoy better gains compared to gold. Now, the biggest factor between choosing gold and silver, in my opinion, is your worldview. How do you think the world will be 10, 20, or even 50 years down the road? Because it should affect how you choose between the two metals, right? So the silver story goes something like this. Not only is it a hedge against inflation and a store of value, it will also gain in price because of industrial demand. And that is true. Over 70% of silver's demand goes into industry to manufacture everything from electronics, solar panels to electric cars. So when you are buying silver, you are actually buying into this story as well. You're buying into this narrative. It is a bet towards a greener future and reality that silver will just be as useful industrially today as it is 50 years or maybe 60 years down the road. Now, gold, on the other hand, is very different, guys. The bet for gold is that one day it might return as money or at least be used to back up the new world currency if a great reset happens, right? There was a gold standard in the past, and until 1971, all money was pegged to gold, which kept inflation stable. And here's the interesting thing. Right now, central banks around the world only hold gold as part of their reserves and not silver. And this is something we really need to think about. It is something we need to appreciate. Because if a reset does happen, it is more likely they will favor the metal that they hold, which is gold, rather than silver that they themselves don't stack, right? So it's important that you really work out these scenarios in your head and ask yourself, which is more likely? Which is better for me? Which story do I believe more? I think the best thing to do is really take the time to see which metal's right for you. Just because you see people on YouTube with thousands of silver ounces doesn't mean it is for you. And just because I flash this gold coin right now doesn't mean that you should go buy gold tomorrow, right? There will be ample amounts of gold and silver for you to buy, and the supply won't dry up anytime soon. Every time there's a silver squeeze, the price always comes back down to earth when the hype dies down. So sit back, relax, enjoy the show, and slowly make your decision, right? See if you can chart out a plan that allows you to dollar cost average into gold and silver to get an average price. Now, going lump sum in is very risky, and you're becoming a greedy little Timmy trying to time the market if you do that. Remember, guys, gold and silver is not a get rich scheme, and it's a long term game. Of my precious metals holdings, I personally hold like 80% gold and around 20% silver because I see more value in gold for my needs. And it's totally okay if you find silver to be the better investment for you. And even if you start off 50-50 on gold and silver, I kind of guarantee that eventually you'll move more towards the metal that you find best for you, right? Maybe one day suddenly you wake up, hey, I'm 90% silver, I'm 10% gold, and that's cool. So there you have it, guys. What challenges do you have when it comes to buying gold or silver? Do you prefer the yellow metal or are you more of a silver person? Let me know in the comments below. So if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe for more gold and silver videos. Thank you guys for watching and I'll see you soon.